I still remember the way the sun was setting that evening, its golden rays painting everything in a warm hue, just like how I used to see him. Bright, safe, full of promise. My boyfriend, Ryan, had always been thoughtful in subtle, quiet ways. He remembered my coffee order, sent me songs that reminded him of me, and held my hand like it was something precious. When he called that afternoon saying he had a surprise, I felt a thrill ripple through me. We hadn't done anything spontaneous in a while, and I missed that kind of romance. He picked me up around 6. Dressed in a crisp button-down shirt, hair neatly styled, he looked more polished than usual. I told him so, and he smiled in that charming, half-shy way that made my heart flutter. "I wanted to make tonight special," he said, reaching over to squeeze my hand as he drove. I believed him. I always believed him. We arrived at a boutique hotel just outside the city. Its glowing lights and ivy-covered entrance looked like something out of a romantic film. My heart soared. I wasn't expecting this level of effort, and it made me feel chosen. Loved. "Dinner first," Ryan said with a grin, leading me into the candlelit dining room. The restaurant had soft jazz playing, flickering candles on each table, and an aroma of garlic and rosemary hanging in the air. Throughout dinner, he was more attentive than usual. He laughed more, listened more, and seemed utterly focused on me. He reached across the table, intertwining his fingers with mine, and told me how lucky he was to have me. I blushed, unsure how to handle the weight of those words, but deeply touched all the same. The waiter brought dessert, a delicate chocolate tart, and I caught Ryan looking at me with an intensity one couldn't place. Not lust exactly, not tenderness either. Something else. Something unreadable. But I brushed the thought away. He was probably nervous, maybe even planning to propose. That would explain everything. My mind was racing with hopeful fantasies. As we finished dessert, Ryan leaned in and whispered, "I booked a room upstairs, just for us. Let's go relax for a bit." It was unexpected, but not unwelcome. We had never stayed in a hotel together before, but we were adults. In love. I trusted him. Still, as we rode the elevator up, a strange flutter of unease settled in my stomach. It was faint, like a shadow just out of sight, and I couldn't explain why it had appeared. I chalked it up to nerves. This was new for us, after all. When the elevator doors opened, Ryan took my hand again. His grip was firmer now. Not aggressive, but tighter than before. I glanced at him, searching for reassurance in his eyes. He just smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. And for the first time that evening, I wondered if I had misread everything. The hallway was quiet as we walked toward the room, just the muted hum of distant voices and the soft carpet muffling our steps. Ryan walked slightly ahead, still holding my hand, but no longer speaking. His earlier warmth had cooled into something unreadable. I watched his back, trying to understand what had shifted. The air between us felt heavier now, like it had thickened with something unsaid. He slid the key card into the door and pushed it open. The room was elegant and softly lit, the kind designed for romance. Plush bedding, dim lights, a chilled bottle of wine waiting in a silver bucket. I stepped inside slowly, unsure of what I was stepping into. Ryan closed the door behind us with a quiet click that echoed too loudly in my ears. "Nice, right?" he said, his voice light but hollow. I nodded, forcing a smile.
"Yeah.
"It's beautiful." I sat on the edge of the bed, smoothing the fabric of my dress, waiting for him to sit beside me.
He didn't.
He stood near the window, staring out at the parking lot below. His arms were crossed, shoulders tense. Something was wrong. Something was off. And it wasn't just me being nervous. "Ryan," I asked gently, "are you okay?" He didn't answer right away. When he finally turned, his expression was unreadable, his eyes distant, jaw clenched. He looked like a stranger wearing my boyfriend's face. "I'm fine," he said too quickly. "Just thinking." "About what?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Is something bothering you?" He shrugged. "It's nothing." But there was a bite in his tone, sharp and final, like a door being closed. I stood up, walked over, and touched his arm.
"Hey, talk to me."
You're not acting like yourself. He flinched slightly at my touch, then turned away. You ask too many questions. The words stung more than I expected. Ryan had never spoken to me like that, not even when we argued. I pulled my hand back slowly, my heart beginning to hammer. I'm just trying to understand what's going on. He said nothing, just walked past me and sat on the bed, elbows on his knees, head bowed. I remained standing, unsure what to do. The distance between us felt like an ocean. The silence stretched, long and suffocating. I couldn't shake the feeling that I shouldn't be there anymore, that something had shifted beyond repair. I reached for my phone in my purse, suddenly craving the comfort of a friend's voice, but Ryan looked up sharply. Don't, he said, low and firm. I froze. His gaze was intense now, not angry but controlled, like he was holding something back. My mouth went dry. I sat down slowly in the armchair across from him, nerves prickling across my skin. I didn't know what was happening, only that I was no longer sure I wanted to find out. And for the first time since the night began, I felt afraid. The room felt colder now, though the temperature hadn't changed. I could hear the faint ticking of a wall clock, each second sharp and deliberate, like it was counting down to something I couldn't name. Ryan hadn't moved. He was still sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor like it held answers to questions he refused to ask aloud. I cleared my throat softly, trying again. Ryan, please talk to me. You're scaring me. He looked up, slowly, and for a brief moment, something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe, or regret. But then it vanished, swallowed by something colder. Without a word, he stood and walked toward me. Not rushed, not violent, just steady. Calculated. I stood as well, instinctively backing up a step. But there was nowhere to go. The armchair was behind me, the wall just to my left. He stopped a foot away, eyes locked on mine. I brought you here, he said, voice low and even, because I wanted to know what you'd do if I stopped pretending. I blinked. What do you mean, stop pretending? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out and touched my shoulder. Not gently, not lovingly, just possessively. My breath hitched. Ryan, you're scaring me, I repeated, firmer this time. If this is some kind of joke, it isn't funny. He didn't blink. It's not a joke. The next few seconds blurred together. He pushed me toward the bed, not hard enough to hurt, but with a pressure that ignored protest. I resisted, confused, frightened, asking him what he was doing, but he didn't listen. His grip tightened when I tried to pull away. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear myself pleading. I told him to stop, again and again. But he didn't stop. The man I loved, the man I trusted, looked straight through me like I was just an object. I froze, my mind splintering from disbelief. How could this be happening? How could the same hands that once held me with tenderness now treat me like I was nothing? When it was over, he stood without looking at me and adjusted his shirt. You can go now, he said flatly, like the night had been nothing more than a transaction. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I sat up slowly, trembling, numbness spreading through me like poison. My body felt foreign. My soul, distant. I grabbed my purse with shaking hands and walked out the door without a word. He didn't follow. The hallway was silent, almost mocking in its calm. I passed the front desk in a daze, barely aware of my surroundings. My phone buzzed with a message from a friend. I didn't open it. I couldn't face anyone. As I stepped outside into the night air, the weight of what had happened began to settle. I couldn't understand it fully. Not yet, but I knew one thing with absolute clarity. Whatever love I thought I had, it had died in that room. The night air hit me like a slap. Cool, bracing, and brutally real. I stood outside the hotel for a long time, staring at nothing. My body moved before my mind caught up. I walked. Down the block, across a street, into another. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to get away. Every step felt heavy, as though my soul had been uprooted from my body and left behind in that room. I didn't cry right away. I think I was too stunned to process what had happened. My brain rejected it, spinning in circles, trying to rationalize the irrational. Maybe I misread him. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it felt. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. But no. Deep down, I knew better. I had begged him to stop. I had looked him in the eyes and asked what was wrong. I had trusted him, loved him, and he had used that trust as a weapon. When I finally reached home, I locked the door and sat on the floor, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. My makeup was smeared, but my eyes looked hollow, like something had been stolen. Days passed in a haze. I didn't answer calls. I deleted every message he sent without reading them. I couldn't bear to hear his voice, to see his name flash across my screen. The thought of him made my skin crawl. The worst part wasn't even the physical violation. It was the betrayal. The way he transformed so effortlessly from someone I loved into someone I didn't recognize. That's what kept me up at night, the realization that someone can hold you with one hand and hurt you with the other. I blamed myself for a while, wondered what signs I had missed, wondered if my silence, my compliance in those final moments, meant I had somehow allowed it. But those thoughts didn't last. I began to understand that no part of this was my fault. No look, no smile, no dress, no trust should ever be interpreted as consent. I had said no. I had asked him to stop. And he didn't. Eventually, I told one close friend. She cried more than I did. She wanted me to go to the police, to file a report, to make sure he never hurt anyone else. But I wasn't ready. I still don't know if I am. Healing, I've learned, doesn't follow a timeline. It crawls forward on bruised knees, one moment at a time. I still dream of that night sometimes, not the act itself, but the moment before, when I still thought he loved me, when I still thought I was safe. But I'm stronger now, not because of what happened, but in spite of it. And though I'll never speak to him again, I hold no fantasies of closure. Some things don't deserve a tidy ending. Some stories just end with silence, and a promise to never be silent again.